Houston Cougars, a furious comeback to knock off Duke and advance to the national championship game.
Here is Zion Chris, big hole, open sesame. Zion Chris, wow, the 72-yard house call.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Holman Podcast. Back here, post-basketball season, a time that candidly, the two of us were a little worried about. Like, obviously, we have some good spring sports. We talk about them here pretty frequently, but we'll make candidly between us. Kind of worried if the spring slate would just be for some sports kind of a death march. And really exciting thing, probably our best week of spring sports, like in total, to talk about, like years plural. Not to mention, like, we're starting to kind of get shape of what the basketball team's going to look like. Plenty to talk about there. Not arrivals yet, but we're starting to get a clear idea of what the 2026-27 versions of Houston Cougar women's and men's basketball look like. We're going to talk about that. Plenty at the top. Bobby, I told you I'd do something a little funny at the intro. It's Masters week. Something I've learned in the last couple of years, becoming more of a Masters head, is that the previous, you've known about this for years, the previous year's champion gets to pick the menu for the private dinner that previous winners all have the week of the tournament. So I'm going to put you on the spot here because I love putting you on the spot. Bobby, what is your main course? And if you want to give me your dessert and your appetizer too, like, go ahead. But what is your main course if it's the Bobby Masters dinner? I'm curious about this answer.
Yeah, so I think I would do some version of surf and turf. A lot of times when I go to like work conventions and stuff and they happen in Texas, it's always like barbecue, and that's what people think of with Texas and whatnot. But I think I would do some form of surf and turf with a nice fillet or even a ribeye, something like that, with not lobster. I'm more of a shrimp guy, so I would have grilled shrimp on the side with it. So I'd probably do something like that. And then for dessert, I would make my mom give them the recipe for my favorite dessert that she makes. It's called chocolate cheese tort. It's chocolate pudding with a cream cheese sugar mixture on it, on like a praline kind of not a praline, like a it's like a pecan sandy kind of crust. Nice. And then you just layer all those things on there. So it's whipped cream, chocolate pudding, the cream cheese sugar mix, pudding, whipped cream, chocolate, and then whipped cream on top with pecans sprinkled on top. That would probably be what I would want for dessert. If they wouldn't do that for some godforsaken reason, I would just kind of keep it simple. And I just want a New York cheesecake, man. That would. I mean,
I think if this hypothetical, dinner. You've won the Masters. I think they're kind of over a barrel, and you're paying for it anyway.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, is you pay for it. The winner pays for it. So but you just won the Masters. You're probably the best golfer in the world, so you can probably afford it. But
Rory probably wasn't checking his Edward Jones account to make sure he had enough in the bank for this year's meal.
Probably
good choices.
Probably not.
Not that I thought that you'd pick something I'd make a face about it, but very good choices all around. I'd be pretty stoked to eat that if I was a Masters winner in this entirely hypothetical, definitely not real scenario here. But get to the Cougars if you will allow me, friend. Also going to mention the top because I think I've been bad about doing it here at the start. Patreon.com/SH podcast. If you want to support the work that Bobby and I do on a weekly basis, talk about the Cougs. We got a big basketball Patreon only episode coming as we kind of get an idea what the coming season's roster is going to look like. We're going to dive in even further than we are on tonight's show and probably subsequent shows there. Or if you just want to support the work that we do, that is patreon.com/SH podcast. Also, I'm bad about doing this. Bobby's great about working this into the outro, but you're not in a place where you want to or can give us money. You like this podcast, listen to it every week or most weeks. Leave us a 5-star review in your podcast app of choice. Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, I think they allow you to do it there. Any of those places as well. It's free, and it is immensely helpful to independent podcasts like the one that my good friend and I here do about the Houston Cougars. I think that's all the housekeeping, Bobby. We're lead off with Cougar men's basketball talk because we had a couple more entrants to the NCAA transfer portal from the Cougar men's basketball program in the past week since we've recorded. Found out that reserve big men, Lath and Jacob MacFarland, would be entering the portal. I think in both cases, a happy trail situation. I was going to start with Big Sed, though. When we're talking about a guy who has probably one more season of U.S. college basketball left, I think there are a number of D1 programs where Sed could play a much larger role than you likely would have here. And I think we're both, at the risk of speaking for you here before I pass off to you, pretty excited to see where he ends up and what his role looks like at whatever program comes next for him.
Yeah, he's always kind of been one of those guys that you like, you have an eye on, but just never really busted into the rotation quite like you maybe expected him to. But I think dropping down a level to something like a really good American program, if not that I would want to see him succeed at Memphis, but you watch him go down to a level like that. Maybe he goes. I almost said Tulane, but that gives Ron Hunter some stuff. I don't know who to mention here.
North
But
Texas?
yeah, you see him as a mean green fighting eagle. And he goes out there and he does 15 a night, 16 a night, something crazy like that. Maybe you wish him best of luck and you hope that he can go make himself some money overseas or get a look at something.
Yeah, universally liked guy in the program. Anyone who covers the team or works in the building would tell you that. What I'll remember from this season specifically was during that non-conference one over in New Orleans, and it was a Saturday afternoon game, you were working. Chris Sanak got into foul trouble early. Khalifa Sacco was in the middle of that period where he missed some games due to a knee injury, so he wasn't available. And you really needed at that moment some quality minutes from Lath, and he was on the floor when you really put that game out of any conceivable reach. I remember seeing him when I was watching on TV specifically get a noticeable applause or ovation when he subbed out after really giving you some quality minutes. And that tells you we're not alone. There are going to be a lot of Cougar fans who will be big fans of Sed wherever he ends up in the future. We also got yesterday, I believe, after the lot announcement, that Jacob MacFarland, another reserve big man, would be entering the transfer portal. Can't really say too much about his U of H career because he struggled to get on the court in large part due to injuries. I mean, I would say certainly the two of us and every U of H fan hopes that the remainder of Jacob's career is healthier than the first 3 seasons have been. But I think fair to say, even taking injuries into account, that MacFarland likely wasn't going to play a big noticeable role on next year's Cougar team because usually players in this program, even bench guys, by their second year, they find the court. I mean, Cougar fans can say correctly that we've had a lot of multi-year development guys come in this program, but almost always by year 2, those players find a role in the rotation. Jamal Shed, even before the injuries to Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark, his second season in the program, he was already playing significant minutes as your bench point guard before taking over the starting job when those two guys just mentioned were ruled out for the 21-22 season. Jaywan Roberts played the majority of U of H's games as a bench big man in the 2021 team that went to the Final Four. Javier Francis played in 35 of the 37 games that the team played in his second year in the program. That was the 22-23 season. You did have Malik Wilson, who missed all of his first season, and I think he even entered his name into the portal briefly after that season that he missed due to injury, but ended up playing 76 games combined off the bench in his final 2 seasons. And that's just 4 examples of players, but I genuinely don't think you can find a U of H player in this program under Kelvin Sampson who ended up going on to play a significant role after not playing much their first 2 years in the program. And to my eye, that's what these 2 specific situations are. Guys who were clearly good culture guys, but probably weren't going to see a ton of minutes that they stuck around. And quite honestly, deserve to go somewhere where they'll have a shot to play a significant role. And I would say plenty of D1 opportunities for either of those guys to do exactly that.
Yeah, you'd love to see that for them and for them to be successful in that. And so with that, we knew next year was going to kind of be a rebuilding year. Like, as crazy as that sounds, not that we're going to rebuild and be, the 12th best team in the Big 12. I don't think
it's accurate. What you said's accurate, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't expect to be a top 2 team every single year, especially when you lose the players that you are going to lose last year combined with this year. You kind of have to take a little bit of a step back, but we knew it was going to happen. But I think the thing that doesn't concern me here, and the biggest thing to me, is the fact that we haven't lost what heading into this season you believed going into next season was your core for 26-27. You seem to be keeping Mercy and McCarthy. You look to be keeping JoJo, which, let's be honest, you were kind of shocked that, there was a chance you weren't going to get JoJo back. Now, granted, you're getting him back because maybe he didn't develop quite to the level that you were hoping he did, but he's still here, right? You knew the recruits you were getting in. You knew you have Alozi coming in to help with your guard play. You're also seeing that a lot of people expect the Cougs to be big in the transfer market. A lot of people I saw today, Houston is looking to spend more than they ever have. So I don't think there's any reason to panic. Like you said, you lost some guys who were starters who are going to play the NBA, or they are running out of eligibility. They're out of eligibility. And then the guys you lost, they were guys who hadn't really broken into the rotation. Nothing wrong with them. I don't fault them for leaving at all. But I don't think there's any reason to panic. There isn't some max exodus going on in this program for any other reason than you're getting much better than you were. If you started to see some starters or big time rotation guys start to leave, yeah, man, I could see that raising some eyebrows. But when you really think about it, you freed up a good amount of NIL money with the players coming off the roster, both in transfers and with graduation and NBA declarations. But call me crazy, but it really seems like the staff told the guys who were entering the transfer portal that there was a good chance they wouldn't be major factors on this team, and to try and get some PT on another roster. Um, is it a lot to replace? Sure. Like, the amount of just the sheer number of players you're trying to replace is a lot. In terms of production, though, outside of the starters, which, look, there's 4 of your 5 starters you're losing. There's a chance you're losing 4 out of the 5 if you include Sinak in there. You're going to lose some production that way. But the big thing it really seems like you're losing is a lot of depth with the transfers. You're not losing any starters off the transfers. You're not doing anything like that. You're just losing some depth. And with the money that I think we're going to spend, I think we're gonna be fine. I would love to see maybe some starting guard, and then, just like I said, a couple of depth pieces at guard, and then get a big man to back up everybody if you don't get Sinak. But other than that, yeah, there's no real panic for me in regards to this. I don't think there's some major problem going on or anything like that. You just knew that this was going to happen. You had your run. You had 2 years of really, really good teams. I mean, you've had a bunch of really, really good teams, right? But you had that senior core. You're not going to have that next year, and you're going to have to wait a year or two again. Now, I think this is still a top 25 team, and I don't want to write them off for being a top 5 team next year without knowing what's coming into the transfer market, but in no way am I panicked right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Out of the guys that were in this program the most recent season or currently in the portal, I would really only entertain the idea that out of that group, maybe Isaiah Harwell could have become like a significant contributor next year, and that would have needed to be accompanied by real significant improvement upon his most recent season. I'm with you. The only players that to me would have represented a real significant and concerning but like notable departure would have been Tugler, Mercy Miller, and Chase McCarty, all guys who've indicated, I believe, they're returning to U of H, or if Chris Sinak decides to return to college, but not at U of H. That's it really to me. Nobody else who would have projected to return has proven enough to me yet in this program to view it as a significant departure. Will say, I did my first future-facing Cougar men's basketball scholarship grid today, and as this moment, good chance you're adding up to 6 guys with, I think, the more likely than not scenario of Sinak departing, but a lot of exciting guys in the portal right now, a staff that I think will have a decent war chest, both from increased commitment of donors and also, like you said, you're freeing up some NIL money with some of the departing guys. So kind of what we
Especially
figured.
with your bigger name guys that you had to pay a lot to keep here.
Yeah.
You aren't gonna have, you probably had to pay Emmanuel Sharp quite a bit of money. That for what you were paying Emmanuel Sharp, you can probably get 2 backup guards. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're gonna be able to do that. I think you can get 2 for 1. Emmanuel Sharp was one of the best players in the country, so you paid him like that. I would imagine you're going to be able to get a little bit more. I don't want to say bang for your buck because that's very disparaging towards Emmanuel Sharp, it feels like, but more just players, right? You're gonna try, you have a real chance to Billy Bean Moneyball the situation.
We figured even before the season was over, just knowing, hey, you're losing some seniors, likely we figured a couple bench guys are going, Kingston and maybe Sinat going, figured this would be a pretty active program in the portal, and we'll obviously be excited to see what that looks like, and we will update as we find out who the newest Houston Cougar men's basketball players are. We'll stay on the hardwood. We had a couple portal entries also from the Cougar women's program as well. Guards Kendall Hunter and Kateri Poole have entered the transfer portal since we last recorded. I hadn't even considered that either would be back because they were both classified as seniors, but dug deeper, both players have missed. I think Poole missed all of 2 seasons ago, I guess now, and the vast majority of this most recent season. Hunter, previously in her college career, missed 2 full seasons. So we'll never predict what the NCAA will or won't do with awarding additional years of eligibility, but would feel like both athletes have a decent chance to get an additional year of college. Hunter had her moments as a scorer for the Cougs this season. She had 23 in your lone Big 12 win over Cincy, 20 at K-State, 21 at Arizona, and 20 against eventual league champions TCU. Hunter was a former pretty high-end recruit out of the Houston area, started her career at UT Austin, played at A&M immediately before coming to U of H. Maybe she can go to a team with a more proven supporting cast for her final year of college. But I think, as I said previously, when we talked about some other women's portal entries, not really super concerned if anyone leaves the team besides your 2 freshmen who saw significant minutes this year. Or I guess if one of your good high school signees wants out of their signing, I guess that's when it catches your eye. But that's really my focus. I hope Kendall and Kateri can have productive final college seasons because there's clearly some scoring ability there.
Yeah, they're the type of players that you maybe would rather keep just because you haven't done a very good job of putting the ball in the bucket. But to your point, this really feels like the portal that we expected to see last year with the new coaching staff, just kind of turning the roster over. We've said this in previous podcasts that it absolutely felt like Coach came in here and Coach Mitchell came in here and was like, hey, just give me a year. Let's see what we got. Come here, give it a go. If you like it, you can stay. If you don't, you can go. But give me a year. Let's just try it, and let's see how we mesh with each other. And you're getting a bunch of players who gave them a chance, and I think everyone's like, "Yep, you're ready to go. Go ahead." You have been looking for size in your recruits. I think I pointed this out many podcasts ago, but when you kind of look, Kendall Hunter being fairly short, Kateri Poole's fairly short compared to what you have coming in. So really feels like a system fit. It really feels like Coach Mitchell, like I said, was like, hey, give me a chance. Let's see what each other have. Not, I want you to come in and judge me. I'm going to judge you on your playing ability. You judge me on my coaching ability and how well you think you fit with the system. And we can try and figure it out. And it certainly seems like this is the portal class that we expected last year.
Yeah, I appreciate if nothing else. Poole came in under the previous staff that she chose to stick around and give them a chance before she suffered a pretty early season injury. So really only wish the best things for those two as they try to get one more year of college basketball.
Absolutely agree.
And so, like I said at the top, we have a super exciting slate of spring sports happenings to talk about tonight. There are several good cases of which team could lead it, but thought about it a while, and I believe Cougar Track and Field's weekend at the Texas Relays has earned top billing. The big headline story being the Cougar men's 4x1 relay announcing its presence, its return, if you will, to being a real team to watch nationally, and what's been really a bread and butter event for this program over many eras and many years. Cougs ran the fastest time in prelims on Friday and then won Saturday's finals with a time of 38.69 seconds, the 10th fastest time in program history. And it almost goes without saying, top 10 time is always notable. A top 10 time in the 4x1 men's relay in this program with as many just unbelievable athletes who have ran that event for you before is a big deal, especially for an early season event like this one. You have Louis Inchliff, the 2024 outdoor men's champion, the 100, running the anchor leg, which that alone will put you among the best of the best. But this is a good relay top to bottom. You have grad student Ryan Mulholland in his second year in the program. He was part of your 4x1 relay last year that finished second at Big 12s. Previously, when he was at Oregon, he was a 2023 outdoor second team All-American in the 100. Junior Michael Onilobo, who was the 2025 Patriot League outdoor champion in the 100, had a podium finish also in the Patriot League's 200, and senior Dakari Charlton, who was 8th in the D2 NCAA outdoors at the 100 last spring when he was competing for Pittsburgh State. And, oh yeah, no big deal. Inchliff, an Olympian and an American college champion in the 100, running the anchor leg. That's a really, really good relay 1 through 4. And obviously excited to see what they do the rest of the season. Not the only standout relay in Austin, though. The women's 4x4 relay won their first title in the event at the Texas Relay since 1992, running the 6th fastest time.
That feels good.
Feels good, buddy. That is 34 years ago, aging me here for a split second, but ran the 6th fastest time in program history at 3 minutes and 33.79 seconds. Really exciting to win a relay at this specific event. I mean, it's half the name, Bobby. It's the Texas Relays, though obviously plenty of non-relay events happening at this meet, but extra special to win one of those. And extra exciting, the entirety of that quartet running for the Cougs in this event are non-seniors. You have the veteran junior Michaela Mouton, who was part of the Cougs Big 12 winning 4x4 relay 2 seasons ago, finished second in the 400 in the Big 12 championships that same season. Now here as your veteran, along with freshman Cambry Woolridge and Jada Stanford and sophomore Carlicia Cresser. I'm really excited, though, to talk about an outdoor event that I don't believe you and I, or even back when it was co-host emeritus Dustin and I, have ever talked about on this podcast. And that's the javelin throw, where junior Reagan Reedy threw a personal best 45.66 meters, placed first of all competitors. This is the first time since the 1982 outdoor season, 44 years ago, that a Cougar athlete has won the javelin at a meet. Only the 3rd time ever a Cougar athlete has won it in program history. Really cool stuff for Reedy. She comes in to the U of H program off of winning the Missouri Valley last outdoor season, competing for Missouri State. So excited to see what she does the rest of the outdoor season. Also a few other standouts. We had Cleo Ashapong on the women's side, placing second in the women's shot put finals. Andrea Mita competing in his first meet since representing the Cougars at NCAA indoors, placing second in the men's high jump. And the Cougar men finished first in the 4x2 relay. Not an event you compete at further in the conference portion of the season, the NCAA portion of the season, but always cool to see a mostly veteran relay at the top step of the podium. Speaks to, along with what you have in the 4x1, the, I think, glut of talent you have in the sprinting events this season. Outdoors always a season to watch in this program. Not that there weren't fun stories from indoor season, and I think the Texas Relay showed that this is going to be one of the more exciting outdoor seasons that we've gotten to talk about here in a decade plus of doing this here podcast.
Yeah, I think the thing that always excites me, like, we will always be a fairly good sprinting school, and winning the 4x1 is beyond exciting. But seeing your field events do as well as they have been, that was something that, like, when you and Dustin first started this podcast, was always like something that was kind of swept to the side a little bit. Like, look, we won the national championship in the 4x1, or we did really well in this event, and we got 4th in the country because we didn't do anything on our field events. But so I always kind of look out for those and see how we're doing. You pointed out that you have that youth movement in the women's 4x4, not a single senior on that team. Just super exciting for that, for the future of the program as well.
No doubt. Always, like I said, with Reedy and the javelin, always exciting to talk about events that we haven't got to talk about before. When Andrea Mita started breaking the scene in the high jump, Christian Sampe a few years before that in the pole vault. I remember when Dustin and I went to the outdoor championships in 2019 in Austin, when they were redoing Oregon Stadium. I remember seeing the high jump and the pole vault specifically. And obviously, like, we were around the contenders for the title that year. So it wasn't like, oh, I really wish we had those, but I was kind of like, that's kind of cool. I was about Mondo Duplantis, who's now like the Olympic champion of the pole vault. I was like, it'd be cool to see one of our athletes do really well in that. So it's It's been cool to see the field events kind of picked up over the last several years, along with I think excellence that is very, very well established for Cougar track and field. So we figured with both the men's and women's golf teams back in action, plus maybe a moment or two talk about a certain professional golf tournament that is occurring in Southeast Georgia this coming week, that we would return with a pimento cheese and egg salad sandwich in hand, respectively, to go to a quiet little place that we like to call Cougar Golf Corner.
Well, I want to welcome you to Cougar Men's Golf Corner. We are going to start with the men. The men's played in a tournament with a very strong field that took place in Augusta, Georgia. No, it's not the one you're thinking of.
That one.
But it was a tournament in which the Cougs did travel to Augusta, Georgia. Really cool that it doesn't get played at Augusta National. It gets played at another course around there. But very strong field, like I said, in this tournament. You had the number 4, the number 6, the number 10, the number 14, the number 16, and the number 41 teams all in attendance. There were other teams, obviously. Those are the ones that are in the top 50 that kind of get the nice little tag by them. For reference, the Cougs are 57th in the country. After the first round, the Cougs were within striking distance of the leaders. Round 2, they were still doing well. The third round, the Cougs shot 4 under, which makes you feel good. But then you look at the other scores, and that was among the worst scores of the day. That being said, really proud of the performance from the men's team here. They did finish 7th, 1 stroke back of finishing T5. They were also able to beat number 10 Illinois by 2 strokes and number 41 Northwestern by 11. Grant Doggett again leads the way, finishing 14th in the individual championship. So good looking stuff there from the men's team. Definitely looks like a team that could finish in the tournament and make a regional and maybe be one of those teams that kind of threatens to make the NCAA championship. I don't necessarily think it'll happen, but you'll kind of see them in that regional area. Just maybe you get hot for a day. Like, they really have that opportunity and that ability to get hot for 3 days and find themselves moving on to the national championships in the final round. I wouldn't bet that it's going to happen, but don't be surprised if it does. I think making the NCAAs is a regional is a big deal in and of itself. But when you know the facilities that this program deals with versus teams like that Illinois one, if you haven't looked up that Illinois, Golf Digest did a whole video on it. It's one of the most incredible facilities I've ever seen in my life. It's insane. So you just look at the money that Illinois has, and you look at their facility. Now, they have to have a really nice indoor facility because it's Illinois and it's cold all the time. Houston, you can get away with not having as nice of an indoor facility, but U of H shares golf facilities with the Golf Club of Houston. They don't control their own course like Illinois does. A&M has their own course. Texas Tech does. Oklahoma State has their own course. So Oklahoma State kind of has their own course. It's their own course. When you see this and you're like, man, we really want to do better or something like that, we have all this history. Like, you got to realize the money that you're going up against. And to beat a school like Illinois is a huge accomplishment. To beat Northwestern by 11, and you finished 7th in going up against 4th, 6th, 10th, 14th, 16th. That's pretty good, man. Those are the kind of performances that can kind of get you believing that you can make the NCAA championship. So that was the men's side. Let's move over to the women's side. The Cougars, Lady Cougs, played up in Dallas. Normally I go to this tournament, but Sam, as you know, I am currently in snowy Edmonton, Alberta, Canada right now, which isn't fun. It's snowing outside my window right now. I had to do something for the first time today, Sam, just real quick, that I had never had to do before. I had to use a broom that was included in my rental car to sweep snow off my car this morning. So there's that. But they were up in Dallas. This is a tournament they usually do really well out. They've won it a couple of times. It's hosted by SMU. This year, it's got a new sponsor. It's the Huntington Bank Collegiate.
We won it last year, if
You-
memory serves, right?
Yep. Yep. And I will say this year's tournament, much stronger field than we've seen in the past. You have number 13 UCF, number 15 UCLA, number 25 Arizona, number 23 Oklahoma, number 27 Oklahoma State, number 30 SMU, number 18 TCU. So you're really playing against a really strong field in this event. Also number 50 Texas Tech, just to kind of throw that out there. And the Cougs finished 5th in this tournament. We're within striking distance after the first round. We're within striking distance after the second round. I think I texted you last night and said, looks like the Cougs are about 6 back. If I did my math correct, they were 6 or 7 back, if I recall. And today didn't have their best round, shot 4 over, not the worst round of the day, kind of middle of the field. And they fell to 5th. But you did beat number 23, number 25, number 41, and number 13, as well as number 50 in this tournament. The only people you lost to are all ranked ahead of you, including number 18, number 15, number 30, and number 27. And for reference, the Cougs are number 32 in the country. So really exciting stuff there. Really good performance. Another team that, once again, I really want to see this team break that ceiling and go to an NCAA championship game. That would be very, very, or not a championship game, but the NCAA championships. Yeah, the championship event. It really feels like this team has the ability to do it. Their performance shows that they can do it. And I think, we talked about in other sports, like we talked about Coach Mitchell's first Big 12 win and how exciting that was. And yeah, it was only one. But you can see things you saw with tennis, not to jump ahead of you in tennis corner, but tennis is killing it right now. What happened last year? You got one Big 12 win. You just need to break that seal to kind of get through and get people to start believing. And I think the team has that ability. On the solo side, I didn't, I totally skipped over this. You actually didn't, your top players that you normally kind of lean on didn't perform as well as you would expect. I think yesterday I texted you, Malin Kim was even par through 2 rounds, and I was like, that's very unlike her. It was one of the reasons why I believe we could come back and win this tournament today. Was Malin Kim has the ability to go out shoot 4 under. She shot 1 over through this whole tournament. You don't see that very often from her. Melissa Vineskol was 4 over for the tournament even today. But I did want to shout out Natalie St. Germain. Finished 6th in this tournament. Looked really good. Played a really solid round today. She went 1 under, led the Cougs, and in all of the other rounds, she went 3 under to start, 2 under in that second round. So finishing top 10 in a tournament that's this stacked is always exciting.
And a decent second round, if I'm understanding.
Yep, she
went
3 under and then 2 under.
I was gonna say the team didn't. I was gonna say you were in position going to the final round to actually be pretty good, which I think obviously one event doesn't mean like, oh, you fixed your second round problem. Wow, it's one event. If any sport is like one event to the other kind of volatile, it's golf. But that was my big takeaway when you texted me about this yesterday. Is like, oh yeah, good enough second round that we're actually in contention to maybe push for a higher place the final day, which I would say that. And they were able to get a pretty respectable place without your best players not playing close to their best golf. I would say is good news.
Yeah, and just to kind of point out the score differences, you were 4 strokes back from 4th place, and then you were kind of in this third tier. There was a tier that was 25, 22, and 18 under. Then you had 11, 7, and 5. I would put Tennessee, who finished 11 under, kind of in their own tier. You're 4 shots back of that. But then U of H and Oklahoma finished 7 under and 5 under. The next closest was Arizona at 1 over. So you were kind of in that second, third tier somewhere in there, which is not something to be terribly upset about.
No doubt. And as Bobby mentioned, we have another spring country club sport that's been killing it lately, your Cougar tennis program, which we will talk about here in our latest edition of Cougar Tennis Corner. So we return to Tennis Corner off of the final week of home action this spring season. All matches from here on will either be on the road or at a neutral site like the Big 12 Championships or potentially an NCAA postseason site of some kind. Started the week not 24 hours after we recorded and actually mentioned this as a strong possibility. We got confirmation on April Fool's Day, which U of H's tweet announcing it was helpfully like, not April Fool's, that Oklahoma State, who had just forfeited their previous match against BYU, would not be able to play their scheduled Friday match with the Cougs. Cougs would be getting credit for a forfeit win. Like I said, that they had previously not been able to play the Saturday before against BYU due to not having enough healthy players. And like I predicted, this was not a problem capable of resolving itself in less than a week. Obviously better for your resume if you get a just barely healthy enough to field team OSU and you beat them like Utah did the week before, than just getting a forfeit win. But also, man, you have to think, even with OSU having some good wins and multiple ranked players, I mean, you can't really invite a team to the NCAA that forfeited multiple late regular season matches, can you? I mean, it stinks for the players, but do you punish teams like U of H that have been able to play all their matches to put OSU in the postseason? Common sense, I think, says no, but no idea what goes on in the NCAA selection process outside of the most obvious criteria. But I think that opens the door for another Big 12 team to get there. And as we'll talk about, I think this U of H team on its own merits has a very good resume. And that forfeit did allow you to go in this final stretch of the season at 500 in conference with 3 winnable matches on the remaining regular season schedule. And then we got one of those winnable matches on Easter Sunday. Cougs took care of business in their home finale, honoring seniors Sophie Schouten, Chems Dohazagluli, and Gabby Cortez, along with Lisa Morosova, who appears to be playing her final college season, with a 4-1 win over Kansas State. And the only thing that gave me heartburn before the K-State match was the fact that the Wildcats were noticeably better in doubles and singles, and that kind of lining up with an area where the Cougs are weaker. And to their credit, the doubles portion of this one wasn't a blowout, but the Cougs led for the majority of proceedings in all 3 courts. You had a slight lineup change coming from the week before that you experimented with. Lisa and Petya Drame, who have played all season previous in court 3, are now playing on court 2, with Eva Seppa and Valeria Krohotina moving from 2 to 3. Kind of an unintentional tribute to your best and most consistent doubles pairing on court 1, Lisa and Sophie, that your mostly underclassmen teammates took care of business on courts 2 and 3, with Lisa and Petya being first off the court with a 6-3 win, and Eva and Valeria finishing the doubles point off with a 6-4 win. We'll say Chems and Sophie were up 6-5 when that portion of the match was called. And once you had the 1-0 lead, this was never going to be anything other than an eventual Cougar win. Once it's got to singles, Valeria had maybe her most dominant match of Big 12 play, won 6-1, 6-1 to put the Cougs up 2-0 overall, pushing her spring record to a super impressive 13-1 in singles. Her fellow junior and doubles partner, Eva Seppa, was close behind, winning 6-2, 6-2 in court 4, gave the Cougs a 3-0 lead. A more modest 7th win this spring season for Eva, but she really had a brutally difficult sophomore season last spring, and it's been nice to see her show what she's capable of and maybe start to get her confidence back, playing more on 3 and 4. This spring, K-State was able to get on the board with Marilu Chugsamjau, a very good singles player who has at least one ranked win this season, defeating Lisa in straight sets on court 1. But shortly after that, Petya Drame finished off a 6-3, 6-3 straight sets win on court 5 to clinch the match and give the Cougs a 4-1 win. Certainly a match that you should have won, but I still don't take it for granted that this program is able to take care of business like they have been against the lesser Big 12 opponents. And the team finished off its home schedule with a 10-2 record, Bobby, almost double the number of home wins that you had the previous 2 seasons combined. You had 6 total over those seasons. And obviously the season's not over by any stretch, so I'm going to save my full thoughts on the 4 players who are playing their last season here for whenever the tennis season does end, hopefully several weeks from now. But all 4 of those athletes have given this program a ton, and I'm very happy their last game on campus was a win like this one that really shows how far Cougar tennis has come.
Yeah, man, it's so exciting just getting the updates from you, getting how pumped up you are about this. You kind of answered my question because, I wanted to ask you, like, how does the committee look at that forfeit, right? Like, it's pretty easy to be like, yeah, you got to win against a really good Oklahoma State team, but you didn't really win it, right? And so I think if this were like a basketball situation, and it's hard to like pull yourself away from that, right? Like when we think of the NCAA committee and things like that, are they going to look at that really as a Big 12 win? Like we talk about, you mentioned how many Big 12 wins we have and all of that and how the resume kind of stacks up. Is it one of those situations where they are like, how do you think they look at that when they are, determining if you're an at-large team? Not that I necessarily think we're on the bubble at this point, just kind of based on what you said and seeing the rankings, but I am just curious how that kind of works.
I would say we're probably around it. That's kind of my best guess to that. I think the committee, and I think it's incumbent upon you not losing either of the two games I'm going to talk about here in a bit. I think the committee will just look at, like probably not the strongest non-conference strength of schedule, but you didn't drop any of those games, didn't come close to dropping any of those games. And if you take care of business this week, you'll have an 8-5 record in conference play. You qualify for the conference tournament, which was actually a detail I missed in real time because starting this year, only 10 of the 16 teams in the conference get invited to the Big 12 tournament. So the win over K-State ensured that no matter what happens, though, I think obviously best for your postseason chances if you don't lose to West Virginia and Cincy here in the coming week. But like 8-5 being one of the top 10 teams in what's the second or at worst third best conference in the country, I think gets you where you need to go. That if you finish outside the top 10, it's like, yeah, you're in a good league, but you start to become, not to use the basketball comparison, one of those like, it's a sub 500 in conference SEC team, but the conference is so good. But at that point, you're still kind of at the mercy.
You become
of the
Auburn.
Yeah, you become the tennis equivalent of Auburn. And again, you take care of business in the week to come. You went 8-5 in Big 12 play. And importantly, because we found out today, Tuesdays when they update the tennis rankings, the Cougars are currently number 36 in the country. Really good news, though, that your two best wins this season have continued to age like fine wine. Utah's up to number 26 in the country. BYU, who U of H swept 4-0 when they faced off in Houston, is up to number 27. That's two really good wins right there. Your worst loss, I'm putting worst kind of in quotes here, was at number 39 Kansas by basically the narrowest margin possible, like losing a third set tiebreaker in a 4-3 match. And
Right.
Your other four losses are against higher ranked teams, including Arizona State and UCF, who are both currently ranked in the national top 18. On one hand, man, you wish you could have gotten one of those trio of games that you lost 4-3, Tech, KU, and Arizona. But on the other, I think you're still in great position if you take care of business in the final week of the season to be a postseason team when it's all said and done. Like this is a really good tennis conference. You don't have a title contender the way maybe OSU was in the last few years, UT when they were in the conference 2 seasons ago, but you have so many teams between like 11 and 39, like so many good to very good teams in this conference, and you beat a couple of them that, I think your postseason resume is in decent shape.
Very nice. Yeah, I was just curious how that works with the forfeit. I know it counts as a win, but will the committee kind of go like, oh yeah, they're definitely an 8-5 Big 12 team, not a, not going, actually it's more of a 7-5 team. They just got to win versus a team that forfeited.
That's why I kind of wish it had been like how when Utah faced them, and clearly when Utah faced Oklahoma State, it was like probably shouldn't have played that game either. But
yeah,
would have liked to have beaten them even in a diminished state to get the win. But I mean, you didn't have any control over that. Like there's nothing.
right.
I'm positive you gave Cat truth serum, if you gave the assistants truth serum, you gave the players, like they wanted to play that match. But I mean, if OSU didn't have 5 healthy players, like nothing you could really do about that one.
Nothing you can do about it for sure.
So up next, the Cougars will play their final 2 home regular season matches. Final 2 regular season matches. Don't know why I said they were home. They are both away. First on Friday, you will go to West Virginia and face the Mountaineers at 4 p.m. Central. Mountaineers are 1-10 in Big 12 play this season. Their only win coming against the other team you will see this weekend, Cincy. The nicest thing I can say about them is they were good enough to at least score a point or points against BYU, Arizona, and Baylor, who were among that group of good Big 12 programs. But in conference play as a team, in doubles, the Mountaineers are combined 3-14. In singles, they're combined 6-24. Like it's been a rough season for that team. And this was a bit of a contentious match last season. West Virginia won a close 4-3 match at Sweetwater Country Club's indoor facility in Sugar Land because of inclement weather in Houston on the day of the match. Quick shout out, by the way, to the Houston weather for cooperating all of this season's spring schedule now that all of those matches are in the books. We'll just say, I doubt any of the returning Cougar players will need extra motivation for this one. Despite the Mountaineers' modest record in conference play, I think this is one that the Cougs have been locked in on since it was a close and pretty contentious loss last year. And your regular season finale is going to be on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Like West Virginia, Cincy comes in this weekend with a 1-10 Big 12 record. They gave West Virginia their only conference win of the season, which I mentioned a moment ago. Their lone conference win was back in late February at home against the K-State team I just talked about the Cougs beating. This is where I would give you some individual or interesting team stat, Bobby, but when you click on the tennis stats link on Cincy's athletics website, it takes you to a dead link on the ITA Cincy website. And when I tried to Google my way there, I got a big page with bold letters on the Cincy website saying no statistics found for the current season, which that's rough, man. This is a Big 12 program. Like U of H, for any of its faults, has supporting tennis historically. From my memory, when I've needed to look for it, even during seasons that have not gone so well, always had stats up there. Sunday, when I was doing my notes, they already had updated stats for the match that had occurred on Easter Sunday. Kind of sucks for the Cincy athletes. That was just something I noticed doing this. Cougs did get a few head-to-heads with athletes on the Cincy team when they played in Big 12 individuals back in the fall season, won all of their head-to-heads, and now won pretty decisively. Last year, Cincy was your first ever Big 12 win. Cougs defeated the Bearcats 4-2 in Houston. Both of these teams' lineups look pretty similar to what they were a season ago. Another one the Cougs should win, but again, being on the road makes it, I'm not going to say gives me serious doubts we're going to win, but makes it a little tougher. And it kind of makes sense that you opened the season back in late January in California on a pretty long road trip, but a pretty long road trip against three varying degrees of winnable opponents, because as documented in this tennis corner this season, it's been a rough last few years for winning away from home for Cougar tennis. And that opening road trip and some of the other, I think, winnable road matches you played a little bit closer to home, you really got this team in the habit of beating outmatched opponents away from home. Like, athletes are creatures of habit, and if you've never experienced winning away from home, like none of these athletes had hardly in this program returning from the previous era or transfers that came with Cat from Grand Canyon, you got to kind of get in that habit. And Cincy and West Virginia are better opponents than, say, UC Riverside, UC Irvine, or to the DFW road trip, UT Arlington. But again, sports are psychological. And when it's been so long since your team experienced winning away from home, you got to develop good habits, and credit to Coach Cat and the staff for giving the team this experience before two very critical matches. You're exactly where you want it to be. You know, now that the match has been played, maybe you would have wanted to win one of the 4-3 matches that you dropped, that trio against Tech, KU, and Arizona. But in this biggest picture sense, you are where you wanted to be. You're going to the final week of the season, looking like a postseason team, number 36 in the country right now. Now you got to take care of business against two opponents that you've demonstrated this season previously have no rights to be competing with you. Honestly, that's how good this team has been.
Yeah, it's been super exciting to just watch and follow this team. And like you said, they're really set up where you wanted them to be. I don't know, maybe I'm completely off, but I didn't expect them to be this good this year. I expected them to compete a little bit better. You know, the doormat era was over.
Not that you were negative, but I remember who took the over on the tennis wins total from the Poskers.
Oh, I do not.
It was me and Dustin.
I thought they'd be better, but you know, I knew this was going to be a tough conference that we were rolling into, and super excited to see the results.
And we'll stick with the spring sports here. Go to the bat and ball sports here for a bit. Lead with Cougar softball, since Cougar baseball is currently in the bottom of the ninth inning of their game, and we would like to, if nothing else, much as I loved reacting live to the UT win with you a couple episodes ago, hopefully get a chance to talk about that game in the past tense. Hopefully the 5-4 lead that the Cougs currently have holds 2 outs here, so fingers crossed now. But with Cougar softball, I believe I mentioned this in passing last episode. You started last week off on a good note, defeating A&M Corpus 6-1 on the road last Tuesday. Still, when we previewed the series, Baylor looked like a more challenging opponent than the Cougs had shown themselves capable of beating with any consistency this season. And kind of the elephant in the room is that U of H through last weekend had never won a Big 12 series away from Houston. In total, in 2+ seasons prior to last weekend, had only won one Big 12 series in any location. That was Iowa State at home last season. So Cougs take 2 of 3 in Waco to get that unwanted record off your back this past weekend and make history. Super cool for the players, super cool for first-year head coach Chrissy Schoonmaker. Bobby, what are your takeaways from a surprising but very exciting series win in Waco by your Cougar softball team?
Yeah, man. Just real quick, not that I'm going to spoil baseball of what we're going to talk about, but is this legit our first time both teams have won on a weekend series in the Big 12 play on the same weekend? I feel like it is. I tried to go back, but
it has to be, but you keep talking. I'll double check and see if baseball won a series last year the same weekend as the Iowa State. I will, not that I can live fact check you off the top of my head, but I will at least.
And it's not even. I would be surprised if it was the first time since we joined the Big 12 that they've won a series the same weekend, not even Big 12 play. That'll be harder to prove, but
non-conference. I feel like we probably had a non-conference where both teams.
That was kind of my thought. Was you played like Prairie View and did that, but I know we had some stinkers of games last year in baseball and softball. But anyways, maybe it happened early in the season. Like I said, I can't remember it happening in a while. But these are the types of series. Watching this, not to like crap all over what we saw. These are the types of series that, while I don't think we're winning the conference tournament or anything like that, or going to a regional or doing anything crazy like going nuts, this does give you some hope about the direction that this program is going. You can see the development. It's going to be the same problems that we've seen multiple times this year with the pitching. But this weekend, the pitching showed up. I think Thursday was one of the most insane softball games you'll ever see, Sam. 15 innings. You had a pitcher, Gigi Solis, go 12 2/3, giving up 2 runs and throwing 185 pitches. That's insane, man. That is an insane number. And then you look across the diamond. You look at the other person who threw in the circle for Baylor. Buddy, the Baylor pitcher goes the full 15 innings. Gives up 3 runs, takes the loss after throwing. Did you see how many pitches she threw, Sam?
It was like over 200, right?
250, buddy. She threw 250 pitches. All right. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But then when you look at it even more, Gigi Solis threw another inning and a third on Friday. But your pitching showed up, and that's going to be the thing that we talk about with this program. They can hit the bats. Go strong, but Nevaeh Brown shows up on Saturday to get the first Big 12 series win for the Cougs by going a complete game. She threw a complete game and got the win. So whatever the pitching's on for this team, it's really good. This team can be and is a very good team hitting wise. It's just, can you figure out the pitching?
Yeah, really, really, really gutsy win on Thursday night. I mean, I don't think the two of us thought. I don't think the two of us thought 15 innings of good pitching was in the cards for the entire weekend, much less the entire game. Cougs got to have a bases loaded 1-out jam to end the 7th, like that. Like it wasn't even a given that you were even gonna push this thing to extras. It was good work by Gigi Solis that even gave you a chance to get there. I mean, ludicrous night for her. 12 2/3 innings of 2-run ball. Gonna get the headlines, should get the headlines, but shout out Nevaeh Brown and her 2 1/3 scoreless in the middle of Solis's 2 different stints in the circle Thursday night. Really valuable. And then fast forward, Brown finished the weekend with 6 innings of 1-run ball in your run rule win over Baylor on Saturday to take the series. I mean, it's tough. These Cougar pitchers are human, so it took an incredible amount of fortitude for Brown and Solis to step in and do what they did to get you to your most successful week of softball in over a month, your most successful weekend of conference softball in program history. And I think really exciting from the rubber game win on Saturday. Incredibly balanced effort, led by underclassman Ronnie Esparza, who went 3 for 4 at the plate with 2 home runs. Also, sophomores Isabel Cintrone and Maddox Mitchell both had 2 hits. I mean, it's like you said, long term, the pitching still has to be figured out. One good weekend doesn't change that. But this weekend was also another really good example of how the Cougars are hitting. And this is like a good lineup. And it's not just limited to 2 or 3 hitters. This group has the potential, if you can keep these athletes around, to be a really good lineup long term, 1 through 9. Good enough to support a team in and around the NCAA postseason if you have the right pitching. But I will admit that if I just said they're not a small F. Bobby, I also looked it up while you were talking. The Cougs technically did win the series when softball took 2 or 3 against Iowa State last year, but it was a non-conference one against Grambling in baseball. So yeah, like, you know how softball starts their season, their Big 12 season a little earlier than baseball. So you were right. This was the first ever weekend where both the baseball and softball team won their Big 12 series, which again, this coming into the weekend, you were a combined, do the math here in my head, 2-19 in Big 12 play out of those 2 programs. So didn't expect to double the amount of wins over a weekend that we got, but really cool. And I think certainly in this case, credit to the softball team to have the mental fortitude to stick in there and get a big road series win, your first ever road series win in this conference after what had just been a really brutally difficult last few weekends. And don't look now, Bobby, but this team is only 2 Big 12 wins away from breaking the program's, albeit modest, but still breaking the program's single season Big 12 wins record. And in a season that we knew was going to be a serious rebuild, you were picked to finish dead last in the league. I think you're allowed to feel good about that possibility, and you're certainly allowed to feel good about just a strong weekend in general from the softball program.
Yeah, it's you're seeing the progress that you were hoping to see.
No doubt. And we will get to Cougar baseball team. Last but not least, as we try to get this thing in as the Cougs Tuesday night game went final, which it did. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But lead off talking about Cougar baseball's first series win in Lubbock against Texas Tech since 1980. It's really been an episode of things that haven't happened in a while for Cougar sports. But I feel like I've done a lot of this hasn't happened since this date. That was long in the past. Knew coming in that Tech wasn't an especially good team, but they also weren't an especially good team last year when they swept the Cougs in Houston. Weren't a particularly good team 2 years ago when they swept the Cougs in Lubbock. And they were 14-3 at home coming into the weekend, had already won home series previously against good Kansas and UTSA programs. And like we were crediting softball, it's a credit to this baseball team. And kind of what makes the season a little maddening. You've been good enough to have 4 very, very good non-conference wins. Wake Forest, BC, Bama, and UT Austin are all top 30 RPI teams. And to win 2 games at a team that had only lost at home 3 times all season before the weekend, that you hadn't won at, I think you hadn't won a game at all in Lubbock since like 1990 back in the Southwest Conference days. I mean, you just haven't taken care of business for the most part in the weekend series in Big 12 play, but you did this weekend, and that's pretty exciting, Bobby.
Yeah, anytime you can get those series wins in the Big 12, to do it against that team that resides in Lubbock always feels good no matter what. So really excited to see them get that win. But this team is so Jekyll and Hyde, man. They get like we said, they get their first Big 12 series win in Lubbock. I watched this team and I'm instantly reminded, Sam, of the Rangers teams that I watched growing up, where you'll score 10, you'll put up 10 or 11, but you're going to give up 9 or 12. It's never a game where you're going to go out and win a 3-1 game. Like, that just doesn't happen. That's exactly how I feel. And I don't want to be the guy who's not excited about this series win or anything like that. It's great. History's been made. But you did give up 28 runs on the weekend. So while I'm excited, I don't think this is some kind of indicator that this team is headed for a massive run in the Big 12 tournament or anything. I thought you got some great performances with the bats. Cade Climby goes yard multiple times this weekend, and that is super exciting. And this is arguably the best hitting team that you and I have seen in since we became real fans, I guess, and students in 2000. That would be the 2008 season.
I would say probably one of Whitting's teams from 2014 to 17 is a little better than this, but I would say this team isn't that far off.
Yeah, so you were able to you're able to do that. All you need to do is find the pitching, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, but it's going to be really interesting to watch the last couple of weekends play out.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with your general description of the pitching not being great this weekend. We'll say Lubbock is one of the most offensive friendly places in all college baseball. It's going to be some 90s Colorado Rockies style baseball there. Would have shot some individuals there. Connor Udland gave you a solid 5 innings in the opener, and then Ryan Rodriguez threw the final 4 innings, including scoreless 8th and 9 innings to win that game. I would say the Thursday effort, usual Friday spot, 6 runs allowed at Lubbock qualifies as a good game, though. Obviously didn't get great pitching in either of the games to close the weekend, though I will shout out from the series clinching win on Friday. You got Richie Roman, who's missed the last month or so with an oblique injury, back. He threw 2 perfect innings, scoreless 9th and 10th innings in that one, and Chris Cinta threw a scoreless 11th after you took the lead and won that one 13-10. Coogs ran out of pitching in the Saturday finale, lost that one in 8 innings, 13 walks from Cougar pitchers in that one, in case you left this weekend feeling too optimistic about the state of the team's pitching in 2026. But good hitting team, and good to finally get the series win on the board. I'll believe this team is capable of stringing good Big 12 results together at the moment I see it. But hey, I didn't think they'd win the series in Lubbock, so I am ready to be positively surprised, even if I'm not banking on that being the case.
Yeah, it's I think with this team, I'm more excited just when they get wins and when they look good. I'm not expecting a ton out of them, if that makes sense. That I know that sounds very like negative, but I will.
You're 3-9 in Big 12 play. I don't think a complete about face after one weekend is necessarily earned for this team yet.
Yeah. Just real quick on that Friday night game, did you see how many pitchers we used?
Decent Bemmy. It was the extra innings game. I'm going to say 7.
Now I'm like double checking my math. No, it was 9. You used 9 pitchers, which would explain why Saturday you ran out of pitching and weren't able to get over the finish line there.
Yeah, I don't think anything from this weekend we're hypercritical about. It's more the fact that you went into this weekend with a 1-8 record in conference, and frankly, there was no excuse. Again, not to end this positively being negative, but no reason this team should have been 1-8 in conference coming to this one. You should have picked up multiple wins that you didn't prior to this. Like it's a great series, but you need to see it a lot more before you start feeling optimistic about the team. And I saw a projection today. I mean, Cougs are 0.3% to make the postseason at this point. So a lot of work left to do between now and the end of the season to even think about something like the NCAA tournament from here.
Agreed.
Cougs did start this current week off on a good note. Mentioned it a little bit earlier. We're finishing up what ended up being a Don Sanders Cup clinching win, taking 2 of 3 this year over the Sam Houston Bearcats. And again, not to say that we've drastically changed how we feel about this program based on that. We'll say usually that series has been, one game in Houston, one game in Huntsville, and then one game at a neutral site. Usually it's been Constellation Field in Sugar Land. You actually won it this year. He won it this year while not winning the game in Houston, which is kind of a weird way to do it. But Cougs take that one 5-4 with some timely hitting in the 8th inning. Cougs put up a 4 spot there, which was ultimately enough to see out the win. Ryan Rodriguez, who has been, I think, excluding Richie Roman, who is back healthy now and threw a scoreless inning of relief in this one. So it's been good to see him back healthy. I think for the duration of the season, has probably been your most reliable reliever, and he gave you 2 1/3 to finish this one off. Battled an 8th inning where he maybe did have its best stuff. So nice to get the midweek win there. The big stuff for the week to come, though, is going back to Big 12 play. The Cougs will host BYU for a Thursday through Saturday weekend series because they don't play on Sundays because of the schools. LDS Faith, the Cougars of the U are 2 games better than you in the standings at 5-6 in Big 12 play so far. Most recently, they lost 2 or 3 at Baylor last weekend, but pretty similar overall team profiles. Both teams struggle to pitch and have hit pretty well. I have a couple of extremely BYU names for you, Bobby, if you're ready.
Let's go.
Ezra McNaughton comes into the weekend hitting 379 with 9 homers, and
We're not doing
even
this.
more BYU name, Crew McChesney, not making this up, Crew McChesney is hitting 309, is tied with McNaughton for the BYU team lead with 19 extra base hits. Also, Bryker Herdsman, younger brother of longtime Cougar reliever Brayson Herdsman, is a lineup regular for the Cougs with you as well. I mean, for the season, BYU has been better than U of H at least like taking a game or so off their weekend series. But I think they're pitching challenged enough. If you really want to make a statement, if you really want to show that Tech was indicative of a team that could finish the season stronger, minimum series win. And frankly, I think you need to sweep this one. But again, we'll believe that when I see it. And BYU hits well enough against a UH pitching staff that hasn't answered all of our questions that I'm not necessarily predicting that.
Yeah, I wouldn't predict us to sweep any series, any weekend series. I wouldn't predict us to get the sweep. At this point, it really feels like this team is one of those where you could tell me any result that happens and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, they swept the series and they won each game by 6 runs. I'd be like, yeah, we probably put up 24 runs per game, and that doesn't surprise me a ton. Or the only thing that would shock me is if you're like, hey, they won a 1-0 pitching battle. I'd be like, I don't know about that. But yeah, if we swept the series, I wouldn't be shocked. If we got swept, I wouldn't be shocked here.
Yeah, honestly, you shouldn't get swept, but you shouldn't have lost a number of the games you lost this year.
Yep.
Not to end on a downer, but I mean, that's pretty accurate for the season.
Truth. That's how it go, man. That's how it go.
Bobby, all the Cougar sports this week. Take us home, buddy.
Well, that is it for this week's episode of the Scott and Holman podcast. That is Scott and Holman podcast, PAWDCAST. Why do we do that, Sam? Because it could be anyone's first time listening. You never know. So want to give that shout out. But if you have any feedback for us, we asked for that 5-star review earlier. If you don't think we're giving you a 5-star podcast, send us some feedback on social media. You can find us on Twitter at SH Podcast. If you swore off Twitter for whatever reason, you don't have to explain it to me. I don't really care why you swore it off. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. And if you want to throw some money at us, we will take your money all day, every day. $5 a month gets you some premium content. If you want to give us more, Sam, will we say no if you want to give us more?
We certainly won't, buddy.
We certainly will not. So we will take that, but you can find us on Patreon at SH Podcast or patreon.com/SH Podcast. Sorry about that there, Sam. Again, that's patreon.com/SH Podcast. Sam, I am ready to wrap this up, go get a Tim Hortons donut and crawl into my bed and go to sleep. So what do we always say here, buddy?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Coogs! Let's go!